The wait is over. Football season is here, and the SuperBook Sports Podcast is back in your life. Ron Kruck, joined by the men behind the counters at the SuperBook at the Westgate in Las Vegas. Longtime odds makers Jay Kornegay and John Murray. Guys, a happy football season to you. Hope you're ready for kickoff, ready or not.
Well, we're almost there, Ron. We might not be as enthusiastic as you, right? But that's not. I love college football. I love pro football, but there's some guys that have to work around this stuff, and like most of us do. But boy, it's been a busy couple of weeks, but we're ready.
It seems like, John, you seem focused. You're already in midseason form, aren't you?
I'm ready for it. I mean, baseball season ended for me months ago. The Nationals weren't really competitive. I stopped paying attention, so I'm ready for football season.
All right. Well, we all are. And once again, the goal for this podcast is to give you wagering insight like no one else can deliver. We have one of the longest histories of American odds making experience. And of course, the top odds makers in the business from the world's largest sports book on the planet, SuperBook. And unlike Kyler Murray, you do have to study if you're going to be prepared and want to win. Guys, the NFL is kicking off next week. So college football gets the spotlight. We made it through week 0, whatever that was. And now college football really comes out firing this Labor Day weekend with a loaded 5-day weekend of games. But let's begin with some national championship futures. Usual suspects, Jay, as you look at the numbers. Alabama with the shortest odds, plus 150. Ohio State right behind them at plus 275. Georgia next, looking for back-to-back championships. They're at plus 375. Jay, talk about who are sports books, and SuperBook's biggest liabilities when it comes to national champion future betting.
Well, looking at the big three there, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, then there's a big drop off before we get to Clemson, like at 12-1. And then another step back when we get to A&M at 20 and USC at 25. As I just mentioned, I love college football, but I hate when it's so top heavy. I wish there was about 10 teams, 15 teams, 20-1 or less. I'm really not liking this separation, especially coming from a mid-major. You have no shot of even competing to that level because the programs that seem like are going in different directions. But I love the games, I love the competition, and I certainly love the spirit each and every weekend. But there's been a lot of activity, as you can imagine. The bets are rolling in, and in fact, it got so top heavy we actually put up a proposition up. Will the championship game be Bama against Ohio State?
I love that.
Yeah, and the no open minus 410, and the yes was plus. We opened the no minus 450, and the yes at plus 375, and then it was bet down. So they're betting it down that these two teams are going to meet in the championship game. But as far as the liability that you talked about, we have some liability on USC. We got a lot of money on them early as they went from 40 down to 25. And LSU is probably our biggest liability. They opened at 200-1. They're down to 60-1. So,
wow.
But great action across the future board, especially with those big three. You get some of the others that get some attention, but realistically, are there going to be any other teams that maybe break the top 5 outside, Clemson, A&M, and the big three? I don't think so.
Probably not. At least that's how it's been going for the past several years. I love that national championship wager you can jump in on. John, since you're the Heisman Trophy winner of this show, we'll let you break down that future wager. Current odds, John, according to superbook.com, Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud, of course, is the consensus favorite. He's at 225. Bryce Young, the quarterback at Alabama, plus 450. He's looking to become the first player since Archie Griffin to repeat as a Heisman Trophy winner. And then you have Williams from USC, the Oklahoma transfer at quarterback, coming in at plus 700. John, quarterbacks usually dominate this award. Is this a 2-horse race? And are any of those other long shot players maybe attracting some action from bettors?
I think another quarterback will emerge during the season, Ron. Maybe it's Quinn Ewers. Maybe it's Dylan Gabriel. He's replacing Caleb Williams at Oklahoma. I do think ultimately a quarterback will win. Will Anderson, the Alabama linebacker, he's getting a lot of attention. He's 14-1. If Ndamukong Suh didn't win the Heisman his last year in Nebraska, I don't think they'll ever give it to a defensive player, unfortunately. The reason why you see Bryce Young drift out a little bit to 9-2, we think Alabama is going to win their games by so much that Young might not have to do anything in the second half of those games. That's what happened to Tua Tagovailoa. It was 3 or 4 years ago when he lost the Heisman Trophy to Kyler Murray, was because he didn't play in the fourth quarter of any of Alabama's games because they were up by so much. We think this is an historically great Alabama team this season. We don't know how much he's going to see the field in the fourth quarter. I think C.J. Stroud is a very logical favorite. I'm a Caleb Williams fan. He went to my high school. He's at USC now. He's with Lincoln Riley. I'm going to root for Caleb Williams 7-1, but there's a few other quarterbacks down the board that are getting some betting interest as well. I've even seen people betting on Bo Nix, who I feel like has been in college for like the last 10 years or so. Bo Nix is getting some interest. We have Bo Nix at 100-1. So it's going to probably be a quarterback. Travion Henderson, the Ohio State running back, he is our biggest liability. A lot of action on him. He's down from 50-1 down to 30-1. Henderson, he might fall victim to what I just said about Bryce Young. If the Buckeyes are rolling and they're way up in the second half, they might give some carries to some of their other running backs. You're talking about Ohio State. I'm sure they've got about 6 or 7 of these guys that they can plug in there. So he might not get a ton of action in the second half of these games.
Yeah, great insight, of course. And it seems like a bunch of players have been around going into like their 8th year in college football. Kind of crazy and hard to keep up with so many players transferring as well. Week 1 and SuperBook is offering pretty much a variety of point spreads to consider. We got small lines, we got huge lines, we got everything in between. Get to superbook.com before kickoff. Sign up today, download the app, and get in on the game. SuperBook is offering some great sign-up bonuses and odds boosts. So, guys, let's talk about this Week 1 schedule. For many, the most anticipated game, probably number 2, Ohio State, hosting number 5, Notre Dame. Ohio State, a minus 17-point favorite. We got a couple of Pac-12 versus SEC matchups as number 11 Oregon travels to number 3 Georgia. Georgia, another 17-point favorite. Same conferences go at it when number 7 Utah. They visit Florida. Utah looking for some national respect. They come in as a minus 3-point favorite. And then the Sunday night special, LSU and Florida State battle it out in New Orleans. Should be fun. LSU is the 3-point favorite. John, give us your thoughts on some of these huge Week 1 matchups.
I think the point spreads perfectly illustrate Jay's point about how top-heavy college football is. The 2 best games of the week, the 2 games that feature 4 teams that have playoff aspirations, and they're both 17-point spreads. Right. You know, it's kind of unfortunate how much these teams have distanced themselves from everybody else. Notre Dame and Oregon are really good. Notre Dame is loaded this year, and they're going to go on the road. They're a 17-point dog. They might go off higher than that by the time the game kicks off on Saturday. And Oregon is a team, they got to replace Mario Cristobal, but they're a very talented team. They've got aspirations to win the Pac-12, maybe sneak into the playoffs, and they're a 17-point underdog against Georgia in Atlanta. So it really shows what Jay was saying. These top teams are so much better than everybody else. And I do think that even if Notre Dame or Oregon does find themselves in the college football playoff, they're just going to be right back in this position. They're going to be a 2-touchdown plus underdog, and they're probably going to get crushed. But it's still good for betting. You know, we're going to have all these money line parlays on all these favorites. And then you touched on a couple other games that are a little closer. Utah, Florida, very competitive game. And then the Sunday night game, I think, is really interesting because it's 2 of the best programs in the last 20 years. They've been down on their luck recently. Very even game. It's on a neutral field at the Superdome. I think that game will be fun to watch.
Absolutely. I think that game has garnered a lot of interest from college football fans. Quickly, John, any big tickets coming in on some of these week 1 games that you've seen?
Yeah, I see a lot of people betting against my West Virginia Mountaineers tomorrow night, Thursday night, I should say. We're recording this on Wednesday afternoon. Some big money has come in against the Mountaineers. They laid 7 with Pitt. Also took some big bets on Central Michigan, which I thought was interesting. They're on the road at Oklahoma State. Let's see, the line's actually going the other way in that one. So we've seen some really sharp players laying the points with Oklahoma State and some big bets the other way on the dog there. So the big bets are going to come in on Saturday, Ron. And the big bets are going to come in on the games you're talking about: Notre Dame, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Florida State, LSU. So far, some bets in the 10, 20K range on a couple of these games.
Wow. Okay. Jay, there has been some movement to these week 1 lines, sharp money coming in on several college teams. John alluded to a few, but give us some more details on maybe some of the biggest week 1 point spread movers.
Yeah, we were looking at this earlier, and starting on Friday, you got Michigan State, opening up at 17.5 against Western, and now that's 22.5. So 17.5 to 22.5. A lot of these moves, you got to remember, Ron, were based off week 0 performance, and so you got like Tulsa at Wyoming. Wyoming was I think Tulsa was a 1-point favorite opening number, and now they're up to 6.5 based off Wyoming's poor performance in week 0. Same thing with and you get Western Kentucky at Hawaii. Hawaii's poor performance has really adjusted the line. So Western Kentucky opened up 11.5, now up to 16.5. So some big movements there. I know back in Colorado, they're not too happy about seeing this big move, but TCU opened 7.5 at CU. And CU is now a 13.5 point underdog. That actually was 14.5 yesterday. So a 7.5 up to 13.5 there. And the other one that sticks out to me is the Texas State at Nevada. Interesting move there because I know there's been some sharp play coming in on Texas State. They opened at +9, all right, going to Nevada. But again, based off of performance, this line is now down to pick 'em. So some huge moves for week 1.
Wow, absolutely. Thanks for bringing up my Buffaloes. That's going to be a real treat following them this season with the regular season over-under set at 2.5. And fellas, I don't think they're going to make it. I really don't. But Jay, how about your Rammies? I got to give them a little love before, going to the big house. They're coming in. How big of underdogs are they at this point?
Well, that's another one that's moved, and we had some sharp play come in on the Wolverines that pushed that opening number from 27. All right, Rams getting 27 at the big house there, now up to 30.5. And that was a sharp play. That wasn't public play. Most of these moves are not public play. It's either market based off performance or some of these early educated players out there doing their homework and betting in big amounts right out of the gate, making these lines move quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see what the Rams do with the whole new coaching staff. I know there's a whole new attitude, but being a Rams fan, I got low expectations, but I know our over-under wins is a little higher than the Buffs, so we'll take it.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to get that in. Hey, quickly, September 1st, 2007, I was sitting in the SuperBook getting ready for week 1 of the college football season, and chaos erupted. Appalachian State goes into the big house plus 33-point underdogs, and they pulled off one of the greatest upsets ever. Jay, maybe your Rams can do the same. I don't know.
I'd love to see it. It's kind of like my golf game. Low expectations, and I'll be just fine.
Low expectations in the state of Colorado for this college football season, no doubt about it. But we can look ahead because the SuperContest registration is underway. The ultimate football handicapping challenge, the SuperContest, is back. Better than ever, over $1 million on the line for the contestant who earns the most points for the entire pro football season. Guys, this is always such a fun contest. Jay, give us the details as we gear up for the Super Contest.
Well, SuperContest has been around since 1988. It's paid out over $33 million, and it's viewed as the ultimate pro football handicapping challenge. And it's a very simple format for those that are not familiar with it. It's 5 games against the spread. You pick 5 games against the spread, all NFL, and you get a point for a win, a half point for a push, and it's for the entire 18 regular season weeks, and whoever comes out with the most points is declared the champion, and we pay out the top 30. So it's very interesting. It's followed by many out there, and as you mentioned, we're taking registration right now all the way through September 10th at 3 p.m. We expect to have about 1,500 to 1,600 entries. But very popular over the years. And John, I'll let John talk about the end season contest, because that's something that really differentiates us from the others. We have 11 end season contests this season, and they all pay pretty well. So John, I'll let John explain all those.
Well, I think because I was the one pushing for it, because usually when I'm in a contest, Jay, I'm out within the first 2 weeks. So I wanted to make it so that we had another chance to win. We got another 3-week contest that starts in week 4. And then in week 7, you got a new 6-week and a new 3-week contest, 6 3-week contests, 3 6-week contests. This year we added 2 9-week contests. So when you buy into the Super Contest for $1,000, you're buying yourself into 12 contests. You're buying yourself into the main contest and then all 11 in-season contests with the guaranteed prize money. It's good for those of us that don't do too well picking NFL games and need a fresh start already in week 4. The Super Contest is really the contest for you.
Yeah, those in-season contests they're not just for the winner or the best. We pay out the top 5 for the 2 9-week contests. We pay the top 4 for the 6-week contest. We pay the top 3, and I think they get $100,000 for the 9-week, 75 for the 6-week, and 50. So there's some cash being doled out here during the course of the season, and you're never out of it. In fact, you get restarts every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I love it. I love redos and giving us a little incentive. It's kind of like in fantasy football too, where weekly payouts and things like that, where when your team's already blown up in week 4, give you something to play for. But love this contest. It's so exciting. I know that people will be coming down to the SuperBook at Westgate in Vegas to sign up. And as you said, Jay, there's still time to get in. Registration is open now through Saturday, September 10th. So get on down to the Westgate and come sign up, because you got a chance at a lot of cash. And come say hi to us, because next week we will be taking over the SuperBook at the Westgate for the official SuperBook Sports Podcast fall kickoff. Come say hello, sign up for the Super Contest, and get ready for what should be an epic football season. We are extremely excited to get this thing rolling. NFL fans are counting down the days, guys, until the Bills and the defending champion Rams kick off the season. That's happening on Thursday, September 8th. Before we wrap up, let's take a quick look at the current Super Bowl odds according to superbook.com. Leader in the clubhouse, fellas, the Bills 6-1 odds, despite being 0-4 in Super Bowls. Many believe that they will break through this year. Tampa Bay right behind them with 7-1 odds. Big movement, of course, when Brady announced he was returning. 4 teams, including the defending champion Rams, come in next. 10-1 odds, Rams, Chargers, Packers, Chiefs. At 16-1 odds, Baltimore and San Francisco. And then 3 teams with 20-1 odds, Denver, Cincinnati, and Vegas. Crazy to see all 4 AFC West teams in the Super Bowl hunt. A lot of AFC teams getting some love as we are ready to kick off the season. John, just your thoughts on the Super Bowl futures, any big bets or liability for the book?
Well, the reason Buffalo is the favorite is because they're not in the AFC West. Those other teams all have to play each other. You mentioned all four of them have 20-1 or shorter odds. Buffalo has a much easier path. They should win their division. They should have home playoff games. I think Kansas City is going to win the AFC West, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers, the Broncos, or even the Raiders gave them the run for their money. So those teams are all so jumbled. That's why Buffalo is the favorite. It doesn't necessarily mean they're better than Kansas City is or than some of those other teams are. We don't want to see Tampa Bay, Jay. I mean, how many years in a career can you root against the same player? Tom Brady. I mean, I feel like I've been rooting against Tom Brady for half my life working in sports books. We don't want to see the Bucs, and we don't want to see the Raiders. The Raiders are our biggest liability in terms of dollars. Very popular at the window again, but I think of the realistic teams, Tampa Bay looks like the team that hurts us the most of the teams that realistically can win. I don't think the Raiders can realistically win the Super Bowl with that defense. And everybody in the AFC West, including your Broncos, if they don't win that division, they've got to win 3 games on the road just to get to the Super Bowl. Those teams in the AFC West are facing a very difficult path because that is the best division in the history of the NFL. With those 4 quarterbacks, that's the best division in the history of the league. So it's going to be really tough to come out of there. That's why you see other teams as the betting favorites.
Yeah, the AFC West just going to beat each other up. It does remind me of like the NFC East back in the day in the mid and late 80s when whoever really won that division seemed to go on to win the Super Bowl. Jay,
that division had the Cardinals though, Ron. Don't forget the Arizona, I think they called them the Phoenix Cardinals back then, and they did have one team they got to play twice that they were probably going to beat. This AFC West, there's no easy games in that division. It's going to be brutal.
Yeah, stacked division for sure. Jay, John touched on it, but give us some idea on who are the Super Bowl ticket count leaders and who are some of the teams that bettors are putting their hard-earned cash on.
Yeah, I agree with John, what he was talking about. I mean, that the AFC West is well documented, and they're going to probably be beating up on each other the entire year and most likely have to go on the road. The Bills had to go to Kansas City last year. That's probably not going to happen this year. It's going to be a different story when teams are going to have to go up to Buffalo to play those January games. But looking at the ticket count as far as Super Bowl, we got and this is all jurisdictions here, Ron. We're not just talking about Nevada. We're talking about the states that SuperBook operates in, and that's Colorado, of course, New Jersey, Arizona, and Tennessee, and we're about ready to open up Iowa here in about another week or two. But ticket count leaders for the Super Bowl, you got Raiders, Bills, Chiefs. As far as money wagered, you got the leaders include Chiefs, Bills, Chargers, Raiders, and Bucks. And then our biggest liabilities, as John said, we don't want to see the Raiders or the Bucks. That certainly wouldn't be good for us. But also in the same circle there would be the Steelers and the Seahawks. The Seahawks with an over-under 5.5 wins. Seahawks is one of our biggest liabilities for the SuperBook at this time. So interesting start. Can't wait.
Russell Wilson left, right? Those fans are aware. They got the memo, right?
Oh, according to all the Seahawk fans that I know, it's like he's a bum. He's all washed up. See, they were ready to kick him out of town. I go, we'll see. We'll see what happens this year.
Yeah. Enjoy Drew Lock. I know he's not starting, but crazy the Steelers, guys. Like that was one that came up in my mind. When's the last time you could get the Steelers at 80-1 odds or in that? And the Patriots too. I would guess some of their hardcore fans would jump on the bandwagon and take a flyer on the Patriots around 60-1.
Yeah, well, we saw that. One of the biggest bets that we took all off season was on the Steelers at 80-1. We took $3,000 at 80-1 pays $240. And of course, there's that story about Tom Brady coming back. Oh yeah, only a few knew that. At 25-1, I think we took some bets, some larger bets on Brady and company at 25-1. In fact, I think the biggest one was at 4,000. But the Bucs were up there before he obviously announced his comeback. But some bigger wagers on the NFL heading into the season.
A few people made a lucky guess and they bet Tampa Bay right before he unretired. They were very fortunate. We had some guys. We had some guys betting the Steelers really early in the offseason, Ron, because if you go back to really early in the offseason, there were talk of Rodgers going there. Rodgers going to the Tennessee Titans was a rumor back then. There was a rumor that Rodgers had bought a house in Nashville. So think back to the really early parts of the offseason. Aaron Rodgers is being linked to a few different teams, and you see a liability built up on those teams. The Brady thing has been covered ad nauseum. I think somebody may have known something, but it doesn't really matter now. And look, they've got a tough road to the Super Bowl. They've got a much tougher schedule this year than they did last year.
Yeah.
And you've still got to deal with the Rams, the 49ers, and the Packers. The Packers are going to win the division again. They'll probably win 13 or 14 games, and then they'll lose in Lambeau in the playoffs on some ridiculous play. That'll be their season. But that's usually Green Bay is going to be very good again. Green Bay, even without Devontae Adams, their defense is outstanding. I would still say Rodgers is the best player in the NFL. If you made me pick one guy, I'd say Rodgers or Aaron Donald are the best players in the league. So Green Bay is still going to be there. Tampa Bay's still got a long way to go.
That's what I fell for last year. We heard all the rumors and reports that Rodgers was going to end up in Denver. And of course, I fell for that and I emptied out my accounts. I didn't do that this year. Okay. But last year, I bit hard, based off the source. But, people that find out that information, we're fine with it. We're not complaining. It's just the way it happens. It's like people find out this information. But it's been a couple of times with Brady, the first time when we had a proposition up, where he was going to land, where he was going to sign. And about 3 days before he signs with Tampa Bay, we get a lot of bets on Tampa Bay, 3 days out. And then the same thing happens with his unretirement announcement, 3 days before he makes it public, we get these bets coming in on the Bucs. So, hey, I'm not looking to avoid him. That's just part of the game. But
very fortunate people out there, Jay. There's some people with
shot in the dark. Unbelievable.
A lot of foresight. When we had that prop up, what team will Brady take his next snap with? And this guy comes in, he's like, I want to say the Bucs were 30-1, but I don't really remember. So the guy bet the Bucs. We moved it down to like 8-1, and the guy's like, all right, well, how much can I bet on it now? And we were just like, oh boy. So
he's going to Tampa.
Did
the guy have was his last name Brady?
I'm not accusing anybody of anything, Ron. I don't know, but all I know is there's some people that have been very, very fortunate with their guesses about what Tom Brady's going to do next. That's all I know from my perspective here at the SuperBook.
And now, as we enter into the season, you have another reason to root against Tom Brady and the Bucs.
Yes, and it's not just his mangled face. It's we really just want the Bucs to lose because we don't want to pay out those tickets.
I get it. We'd like to keep our gigs rolling here on the SuperBook Sports Podcast. And guys, great insight. I'm extremely excited to get out to the SuperBook at the Westgate in Las Vegas next week. We'll kick off our NFL preview. If you're in Vegas, come down, say hello, sign up for that SuperContest. And be a part of the podcast. Guys, thank you so much for the time. Great work as always, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, Ron.
You bet. Get to superbook.com before the kickoff. Sign up today, download the app, and get in the game. SuperBook is offering some great sign-up bonuses and odds boosts. And for the latest and greatest wagering news, original content just like this show, special promotions and bonuses, make sure you're following us on social media, all social media platforms at SuperBook Sports. For our VP of Marketing, Kristen Mackey, our producers, Jeremiah Crow and Mike Rigg, social media manager John Hogland, and the hardest working crew in the business, my partners in the desert, Jay Kornegay and John Murray. I'm Ron Kruck. Happy Labor Day, everyone, and we'll talk to you next week in Vegas.